A couple of weeks back, 6 Eastern Shore oystermen brought 6 sacks of fresh Eastern Shore oysters to an old shucking house for a tasting of sorts. The bayside creeks where they were harvested are just a few miles apart, but each oyster had a flavor all its own. That's the thing about oysters. They taste just like where they are from. So today, we're driving across the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel to get a glimpse of where these oysters grew and clues to why they taste the way they do. How about this maze of winding country roads? We're on the way out to the spot on Nandoa Creek where Billy Bowen is raising 1 million oysters. These shadows in the water are where his oyster cages are. The sandy bottom here yields oysters that are squeaky clean. And because they are the farthest north of the 6 creeks, the least salty. We're driving 5 miles south to Occohannock Creek, where we'll board Wade Walker's boat, the Shelduck. The oysters from this little cove are nice and fat and have a good balance of oysters to salt. But in this cove, just a few miles closer to where the creek meets the salty bay, they are just a bit saltier. And a recent rainfall and the way these coves drain into the Chesapeake Bay might also have something to do with their taste. We're just about 5 miles south at Bayford on Nassawadox Creek. That's the old shucking house where this oyster tasting caper all started, and it's probably the oldest in the state. Down this crooked dock is where Tom Gallivan keeps his boat, the Oyster Queen, and right out there is where he harvests his branded Nassawadox salts. Such a pretty spot this is, with about 35 acres of marshes spewing nutrients for Bernie Herman's crop. You can't see it, but this creek has a pinched mouth, and the oysters here are fat, creamy, and have a distinctive flavor of vegetation. It's just 2 miles as the crow flies to get to this pretty spot. This is Dave Watts' family's office, where they shed soft shells and bring in baskets and baskets of clams and oysters from Hunger's Creek. And that's their deaf dock cat. Dave grows his oysters right out there in water that's no more than 5 feet deep. They have a clean, bright, classic Eastern oyster flavor. Those shadows of ships in the distance signal that we're very near the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. This is where Ben Lust tends his oysters, which were, not surprisingly, the saltiest we tasted on this seaside oyster adventure. Please try this at home. While most of these oysters are not commercially available by name, your local fishmonger likely has a couple of different varieties. Ask where they're from, get a map, and go on an oyster adventure of your own. For the Virginian-Pilot, I'm Lorraine Eaton.